I'm Martin Russ, author of Optimize the Moment, a guide to lead decisively, plan strategically, and communicate effectively. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Martin. Welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I thought we could talk about the elephant in the room, which is the future outlook for Canada-U.S. relations over the next 6 months. I would love your take, given the current economic and political landscape. Where do you see things, and what strategic adjustments should organizations consider to stay ahead?
Well, it's a huge topic, obviously, with the new President Trump in the U.S. and the new administration. It's going to mean a lot of changes. We could talk certainly all afternoon about this. Probably do better if we had alcohol. But in the absence of that, I'll try and be concise. First of all, I don't think we should be surprised by any of this. President Trump has been talking about what he wants to do, his vision for America, vision for North America, certainly for months, if not the last year. And none of this should really be a surprise to anybody. So he represents a very significant change. The American people have elected him, have hired him effectively to bring about that change. So whether or not we agree with it really doesn't matter. What matters is that change is coming. And at this point, as we record this, he has not yet been sworn in, but that change is already happening. So, which is fascinating to me, that people are already kind of lining up for the change that is coming, even though we haven't seen a lot of the detail or the nuts and bolts of what that change is. So, good news that people and organizations are already anticipating what the change might be and adjusting for it. I think that's smart. So companies that are smart are leaning into the bold new world, and the bold new world is optimistic. I've spent quite a bit of time in the U.S. And traveling over the last few weeks. And I have to say, people are optimistic. Yes, it's change. Change is hard, but it doesn't have to be. So with that optimism comes an opportunity. So the book talks about optimizing the moment. Yeah. And I would suggest for us as individuals, as families, as organizations, as businesses, these are moments. And these are moments in which there will be some people who are upset and don't want to change and don't want to grab the moment. But for others, for those that do, there will be tremendous opportunity. So the very first thing I do, as you know, is the intelligence gathering piece. So how does it affect me? How does it affect my business? How does it affect my clients and their respective industry? Because each one will be a little bit different. And in some cases, it's going to mean some pretty significant changes, and in other cases, not so much. Certainly, there's a big picture, and the geopolitical changes. And we've talked about how things that happen around the world affect us here at home and affect our businesses. So supply chains, where our customers are, where they're going to be. So now is the time to be smart. Gather that information, do that intelligence gathering, and I mean objectively do that analysis, and try and predict as best we can, because that's hard, over the next significant periods of time, that next 6 months, that next 12 months, that next 18 months, where those significant periods are going to be. And what that landscape is going to look like. It will change. It's going to change domestically, it's going to change internationally, and geopolitically.
Yeah. So, where do you think it's going to land once the president-elect is inaugurated? Because he's been telegraphing things, for instance, with Canada, we're huge interdependent trading partners.
So, I think what's important, a lot of people will focus on individual tariffs, for instance.
Yeah.
So the president has indicated that tariffs are important. He likes tariffs. He likes to use tariffs as an important lever.
Yeah.
And sure, will there be increases in tariffs on certain things? Of course there will be. I think what's important are the underlying themes. So the underlying themes, the reason why he uses tariffs, are because he wants to increase productivity at home.
Yeah.
Right? He wants to bring manufacturing and all sorts of jobs back to the United States, things that were offshored over the last decade or two. And we need to understand what that means. So, you can take a large, tech company, and we've talked about this before. You look at a company like Boeing or whatever. They've offshored everything.
Yeah.
They've offshored their finance, their HR, absolutely everything, right down to, in Boeing's case, they even offshored their engineering.
Yeah, which is their center of gravity.
Which was their core business, right? It was the thing that they did best, which got them into trouble with the MAX, the 737 MAX. So companies, in an effort, again, the short-termism, in an effort to drive an increase in cents per share in profitability on a quarterly basis, looked at every avenue they could to drive that profitability in an attempt to appease the markets.
Yes.
Right? The financial markets. That was their driving force. The theme has now changed. President Trump has said the theme needs to be about bringing the business, the whole business, back to America.
Onshoring again.
And onshoring. And building those better businesses for the long term in America. That is diametrically opposed to driving short-term pennies per share increases for shareholders on the markets.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I think the markets will reward the president and will reward a lot of companies for doing that.
How do you see that play out when you're advising clients? What's the picture you would paint for that to have that outcome?
Well, the markets, the reason I say that is because they did so last time. So when the president was president before, the markets rewarded a lot of companies for onshoring things and making things, in the United States when they did so before. There was a consistency and a stability that they were able to find, right? I mean, necessity is the mother of invention. So what they found was a level of invention and innovation in the United States during that period of time that I think a lot of people didn't expect. And what the president has talked about is finding that again.
Yeah.
So things kind of went off the rails for a little bit, but the theme going forward, I think there's a danger in focusing on this tariff or this specific thing or that specific thing. I think the opportunity for businesses and organizations, and even for us as families as we make decisions, is to focus on the broader theme. And where do we fit into that broader theme? And what decisions can we make to fit into those broader themes? And therefore, what information do we need?
Yeah. There's a sea change afoot on this. This is a big change.
It is. So, in Canada, we are in an interesting place because we can either lean into this and be part of it, or we can be on the outs. And I don't believe for a second that it is advantageous for anybody for Canada to be on the outs with this.
Well, we're living under a big shadow of our closest ally.
Canada has tremendous benefits, not just our natural resources and some critical minerals, that are going to be absolutely vital going forward for industry. But culturally and academically, there are some tremendous resources and people and smart things going on here in Canada that businesses and smart people in the U.S. obviously want to be part of, right? So this continental strategy that I keep hearing more and more about makes a lot of sense. But it only makes sense if Canada and Canadian businesses and Canadian organizations and institutions decide they want to play.
Yeah.
And that's a deliberate decision. That's not going to happen by default. So for those of us who have Canadian businesses and advise Canadian businesses and organizations, our opportunity is to put up our hand and suggest to those who are decision makers and institutions, this is a time to step up. This is a time to optimize the moment.
Yeah.
And decide that we want to play. We want to be part of this continental strategy and work with the Americans in ways to drive our productivity and our effectiveness and all of the ways in which our opportunities for Canada and for the continent, because we benefit from that.
We do, and also we're going to have to make contributions towards that.
Absolutely. It is very much the more we contribute, the more we get out of it.
Yeah. I'm thinking of defense when we say that, right? Like just in terms of what the incoming president has said his priorities are. He's very transactional. Everybody's been talking about that. And when he negotiates, he's coming in at a position to let you know, like he's telegraphing what he wants. And he's putting it right on the line for you to accept, reject, adjust to.
Developing the working theory here for how we go forward is not hard.
Yeah.
The President of the United States has made it very clear what some of the inputs need to be.
Yeah.
If I were advising on the Canada side, the working theory is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Right? What themes we need to work with, the information that we need to gather, and the outcomes that we need to work towards. This is not hard. The decisions that need to be made in order to move us there, perhaps they're hard because they're out of the comfort zone for some of the people who've been in place for a while. So moving us forward is going to take some leadership, going to take some bold decisions. But the more we put into this, the more we get out of it. As a continental strategy, and I'm not just talking funding, right? I'm talking a lot more than funding.
Okay, so let's drill down on those advancing priorities. What strategies do you recommend for key priorities, advancing key priorities within an organization now? Especially when the resources are limited. So we're coming into a period of scarcity mindset right now.
Sure. Well, let's talk about themes. I go back to themes. So one of the themes we have seen and heard telegraphed is about appointing Elon Musk, for example, to reduce the size of government in the U.S. and reduce bureaucracy. It's a great theme. So if I were running a business here, say I was running a bank, that is a theme that I could adopt, I could lean into, I could develop missions around reducing bureaucracy, reducing the difficulty of doing business, right? I could reduce the overhead. I could reduce the expense of doing business. That as a concept, as a theme, is something I could lean into. And there's a wide variety of ways of doing that. For the same benefits, for the customer, the supplier, the international relationships, all of the benefits.
Yeah.
So whether I'm running a bank, an insurance company, an automotive business, right? Those same themes that Elon Musk and the Trump administration is talking about doing for the benefit of the American people can absolutely be done on micro levels for our businesses and our families here.
And do you think that will create better financial stability?
Absolutely.
Does it go beyond finances?
It goes beyond finances. It goes toward productivity. It goes towards people having better clarity around how to interact with those organizations, right? So the reason Elon Musk is talking about it with the U.S. government is because it's too difficult to do business with the government and the bureaucracy and getting anything done if you're an organization. So and we've talked about this before, I have a small business. If I want to do business with a bank, the bureaucracy to do business with a bank here in Canada is enormous. It's significant. It's difficult. It's painful. It takes a long time, right? So the themes are the same.
Yeah.
So reduce it. Get rid of it. And these are policies. These are not...
It's like open banking, embracing open banking as a policy.
So the benefits to that are making it easier for people and small businesses to do finance and banking, right? Which frees up money, frees up money supply. It
time.
It frees up time.
Time is money.
It frees up that, but it also frees up the ability to do transactions.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm a small business and I want to buy another small business, or I want to expand my business, if that's easier for me to do, then that's a benefit. That's a benefit for everybody. That might mean that I actually have the ability to hire some people, right, and expand my business. That's the kind of benefit that you get when you take that theme that this new administration is telegraphing and apply it and lean into it here.
And it's from the ground up.
And it filters through.
Yeah.
So as a strategy, I'm saying there are ways in which businesses can look for those themes in the changing environment in which we see and identify them that they can benefit us and our landscape here.
Okay. Do you think this is going to help in that long tail of COVID where we saw inflation and it's come down, but the prices are where they are. And if you're not making more money, you're taking less food home. So we have shrinkflation combined with inflation. How would you give hope to the average Canadian or average American who feels they were left behind? And how do you think this is going to manifest or play out for them in, let's say, we need probably a year for the change to implement? So where do you think things are going to be in 2 years for people in small towns and communities who feel they've been unheard and left behind?
So anytime you can take control over your situation, you feel better. Anytime you have a plan for your own situation, you feel better. If you have a path of practical steps that you can take, if you can take those steps one at a time, whether it's a year or whether it's 2 years from now, I'm not sure what the time frame is, and you lift your head up and look back, you've accomplished things.
Yeah.
Right? Part of the plan in the book that I talk about, having a mission and then another mission and then another mission and so on, means that you're accomplishing things.
Yeah.
And that's what is important. So when I talk about that in our own lives, right, and coming out of COVID, coming out of difficult times, doing that one step at a time, having a mission and then accomplishing the next mission and then accomplishing the next thing. It's an important process.
Yeah.
And I think we can do that with our small businesses and our families as well as our big businesses, frankly, because change management is partly that, right? It's doing it kind of one step at a time. If you've got a big ship to turn or if you've got a small ship that needs help in the right direction, the point is that action is important, doing something. And whether it's a small step and then another small step, sometimes with our small businesses, we get this inertia and so we just don't do anything, especially these last few years around COVID and coming out of COVID. I see a lot of people who just aren't doing anything. right? They've become complacent. So part of the challenge is recognizing, I think, that this is a moment, and this is a moment where you can, grab it by the horns, if you will, and do something about it. So in the context of all of this other change, seize that moment, optimize that moment, and let's have a plan, and at least have the plan, work the plan, bring all the other people in who can help you to achieve those missions and those goals, because people will help.
So people can learn how to do that by reading your book. Where can they get it, Martin?
The book is available through Amazon.
Yeah.
Here in Canada, obviously, but in the U.S. and in the U.K., and it's available through Barnes & Noble and through Indigo.
There's no time like now to optimize the moment.
That's right.
Thanks, Martin. It's been great chatting with you again.
Thank you very much.
Okay.